Now, presented in digital widescreen.
Tonight on Live at 5, the election is tomorrow, but early voting numbers for the area are in as the presidential candidates crisscross the country tonight looking for those last-minute votes. But first, a father appears in Peoria court for the death of his son. Good evening, I'm Ashley McNamee. A Peoria Heights man remains behind bars tonight in connection with the death of his 7-week-old son. 30-year-old Zachary Knowles appeared in court today via video. He was formally charged with aggravated a Class X felony. Last Tuesday, police were called to a home in the 300 block of East Francis Avenue in Peoria Heights on reports of a child that was not breathing and unresponsive. The victim, Knowles' 7-week-old son, Asa, was transported and treated at OSF St. Francis Medical Center, where he died late Saturday night. Autopsy results show Asa died of head injuries. Court records show Zachary Knowles was sentenced to 90 days in jail, 2 years probation back in 2008 on charges of domestic battery and endangering the life and health of a child. Knowles remains in the Peoria County Jail tonight on $500,000 bond. In national news, today is the last day in the race for the White House. The candidates are hurrying through their swing states, at least 3 stops by President Obama, 5 by former Governor Mitt Romney. Their goal is to get their backers to the polls, but the lawyers are turning out too, gearing up for what could be a very chaotic election day. Steve Handelsman has the latest.
Governor Mitt Romney began his last day push in Florida.
We can begin a better tomorrow, and with the help of the people in Florida, that's exactly what's going to happen.
A few hours later, he was in Virginia.
If you're tired of being tired, then I ask you to vote for change. Help us win this.
With Bruce Springsteen, President Obama started today in Wisconsin.
You know that I'll fight for you and your families every single day, as hard as I know how.
Last night, Colorado, a huge rally. After a shimmy with Stevie Wonder in Cincinnati, Ohio, the president urged his backers to vote today. The lines to early vote in Ohio had been long, but Republicans won a fight to shorten voting hours. Mary Jenkins was out to get Obama backers to the polls. She figured she could make the difference nationally.
I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I didn't put in every shift that I'm putting in over these 4 days.
We'll win the nation.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Nice to
much
meet
for
you.
your enthusiasm.
All right, thank you.
Across town is a Mitt Romney phone bank.
And we're just calling to remind you that your vote is very important.
Ohio Republicans, like Democrats, figure their work could decide the presidency.
If this county ends up red for Mitt Romney, it will go a very, very long way to winning this state.
Governor Romney left a second Virginia stop for Ohio, Columbus, planning to end up in New Hampshire. President Obama would head out of Ohio for Iowa for his final event on this frantic day. Here in Ohio tomorrow, Republican poll watchers are threatening to challenge thousands of votes, which could mean, if the race here is close, no Ohio result in the presidential election for 10 days. I'm Steve Handelsman, NBC News, Cincinnati.
Many national polls are showing the candidates either extremely close, if not exactly tied, and that is raising the question of what happens if the candidates do tie when it comes to electoral votes. Retired ISU political science professor Dr. Robert Bradley says that is a very highly unlikely scenario, but it is possible. He says the decision would be made by the U.S. House of Representatives. Each state's congressional delegate would cast 1 vote. Dr. Bradley says Romney would likely win. The House is currently controlled by Republicans. He also says that if there were a tie for vice president, that is where things could get interesting.
The Senate would then vote for the top 2 for vice president. The Senate's now controlled by Democrats, which would mean Biden would probably be the next vice president, with Romney being president. That would be an interesting scenario.
Dr. Bradley adds this election could turn out to be very similar to the year of 2000, when George Bush won the electoral vote but lost the popular vote by around 500,000 votes. Early voting numbers are in, and the results show roughly the same amount of residents voted early this year as they did during the last presidential election. In Peoria County, 19% of registered voters cast their ballots early. 3% of those votes cast through absentee ballots. That number is down, though, from the 23% back in 2008. It's the same number for the city of Peoria. Nearly 19% of voters cast their ballots early. That is the same amount as 4 years ago. Over in McLean County, just 12% of residents there took advantage of early voting. That's up slightly from the last presidential election. A Morton business is rebuilding after a fire left the building in ruins earlier this year. A groundbreaking ceremony was held today at Bradley Services Incorporated, or BSI. The manufacturing plant is expanding its current Detroit Avenue warehouse and acquiring 8 acres of farmland, all to complete a multi-million-dollar construction project. Back in March, a fire destroyed the previous BSI building down the road and forced many employees to work at a temporary facility in Mapleton. The general manager says all BSI operations will move back to their hometown of Morton.
It's almost a thank you for the community. They helped us tremendously during the fire and during the recovery, and then they helped a ton on finding this location and working out with the landowners and with the building owner, and it's a great way to kind of pay back to the community all the help they've given us.
Construction on Bradley Services Incorporated is expected to wrap up in June. New Jersey and New York attempt to bounce back to a new normal, all in the wake of that mega storm Sandy. Gasoline is flowing at more and more stations in the New Jersey area as they're powering back up. This was the scene early this morning in New Jersey City as a line of about 30 cars waited to fill up. Things are also moving at the Secaucus transfer station, where people are buying tickets for the train as many are heading off to their first full week of work. The Staten Island ferry was also packed as folks made their way back into Lower Manhattan, and it's the first day back to school for many children in Queens, including a school building where breakfast was served for those in need of a good meal, all following the effects of that storm. Let's get a check of our forecast now with our chief meteorologist, Chuck Collins.
Ashley, unfortunately, the Northeast is bracing for an old-fashioned nor'easter, which will spread to heavy rain, strong winds, and upslope snows in the areas hard hit by Sandy. That will come middle part of the week, so they're bracing for another storm, not as big and potent, but still big enough to cause some problems. Here at home, let's go outside to our Tower Park cam because it's cloudy out there and chilly, and we're looking at 43 right now. We'll wake up to about 32 in the morning. Midday showers on Election Day and chilly tomorrow, but there is some good news, dry and warmer weather on the way. I'll talk more about that in a couple of minutes, Ashley.
All right, thanks, Chuck. Well, there's a way that you can help the East Coast residents recovering from Superstorm Sandy. Lifeline pilots will hold a supply drive beginning tomorrow at 9 in the morning. Residents can bring baby products, garbage bags, even non-perishable food items to Byerly Aviation in Peoria.
They don't want any clothes or anything like that. They just need a lot of like baby items and work gloves and warm socks.
Lifeline pilots will fly those donated items to the East Coast disaster victims. The supply drive will continue here over the next couple of weeks, and anyone with questions can call Lifeline pilots at 369-1559 or go to the Lifeline Pilots Facebook page. Just ahead on Live at 5, a national organization steps up to ship items to service members serving overseas. Plus, you can bank, shop, even work online, but what about voting online? Is the battle between convenience and security keeping us from casting our ballots there? We'll find out.